This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, and welcome to this pre-recorded webinar on the grant opportunity for the Model Demonstration Project for Early Identification of Students with Dyslexia in Elementary School. I'm Kristen Rhodes, a Project Officer at the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP. The purpose of this webinar is to increase applicants' awareness and understanding of the requirements for the Model Demonstration Projects for the Early Identification of Students with Dyslexia in Elementary School topic. Please note that information in the notice inviting applications for the 84.326M model demonstration opportunity will be summarized during this webinar. I strongly encourage you to read the notice carefully and to view the recorded webinar with information about applying for OSEP's discretionary grants and submitting a grant application. Notice in particular the application due date and due time. The agenda for this webinar covers 5 overarching topics. First, we will review the absolute priority for the competition. Then we will discuss the application requirements and other important information related to eligible applicants, funding amounts, and formatting. I will then present the opportunity's general requirements. Finally, I will share the selection criteria that will be used by our external peer reviewers when evaluating applications. This priority is from allowable activities specified in or otherwise authorized in Sections 663 and 681D of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. The purpose of this priority is to fund 3 cooperative agreements to establish and operate model demonstration projects. The models will implement frequent screening and progress monitoring measures at all elementary grades, with a particular focus on kindergarten and first grade. The models will demonstrate methods for accurate and efficient identification of and evidence-based interventions for students with or at risk for dyslexia, as well as positive outcomes in reading achievement. The models will also address the infrastructure, i.e. professional development, needed to foster the development, implementation, and evaluation of a school-wide process for identifying students with or at risk for dyslexia. The next 2 slides present the expected outcomes for the project. The projects will assess how the models can improve the capacity of elementary schools to identify early, accurately, and efficiently students with or at risk for dyslexia, improve the capacity of elementary schools to implement evidence-based screening and progress monitoring measures for students with or at risk for dyslexia, improve the capacity of elementary schools to provide resources and evidence-based interventions that best meet the individual needs of students with or at risk for dyslexia, and that lead to improved reading achievement of students with or at risk for dyslexia, and improve the capacity of elementary school personnel to clearly communicate assessment results to parents and to collaborate with parents to establish and meet high expectations for each student with or at risk for dyslexia. The next 5 slides describe the requirements that the models must meet. The first requirement involves what must be included in the model's core intervention components. The requirements are described on the next 2 slides. The core intervention components must include ongoing measures of student reading skills and progress, including frequent measures of reading skills of students with or at risk for dyslexia. Professional development to help ensure educators' appropriate and timely use of data to inform the need for additional diagnostic measures or assessments for students demonstrating risk of dyslexia, and to improve reading instruction and make informed decisions about how to help students build literacy skills. Evidence-based instructional practices tailored to individual needs of students, particularly to those with or at risk for dyslexia. The core intervention components must also include valid and reliable measures of student-level, instructor-level, and system-level outcomes using standardized measures when applicable, procedures to refine the model based on the ongoing measures of student-level, instructor level, and system level performance, procedures for schools to share data with families, as well as engage families in meaningful discussions and decision-making related to reading instruction tailored to meeting their child's individual literacy needs, and measures of the model's social validity, meaning measures of educators, parents, and student satisfaction with the model components, processes, and outcomes. The second requirement involves what must be included in the model's core implementation components. These requirements are described on the next two slides. First is the criteria and strategies for selecting and recruiting sites, including approaches to introducing the model to and promoting the model among site participants. Each project must include at least 3 elementary schools, at least one of which must be a school of choice, such as a public magnet, public charter, or private school. Applicants are encouraged to choose sites from a variety of settings and populations. The model's core implementation components must also include a lag site implementation design, which allows for model development and refinement at the first site in year 1 of the project period, with sites 2 and 3 implementing a revised model based on data from the first site beginning in subsequent project years. The model's core implementation components must also include a professional development component that includes a coaching strategy to enable site-based staff to implement the interventions with fidelity, and measures of the results of the professional development, including measures of the fidelity of implementation. This slide describes the third requirement, core strategies for sustaining the model. The strategies must include documentation that permits current and future site-based staff to replicate or appropriately tailor and sustain the model at any site. Strategies for the grantee to disseminate or promote the use of the model, such as developing easily accessible online training materials, coordinating with TA providers who might serve as future trainers, or providing technical support for users who may want to learn about and implement the model and its components, and strategies for the grantees to assist state educational agencies and local educational agencies within the state to scale up a model and its components. This slide provides an overview of other requirements for the application. More specific information related to these requirements is provided in the notice inviting application. The application should include a detailed review of the literature addressing the proposed model or its intervention and implementation components and processes to improve identification and instruction for students with or at risk for dyslexia in elementary school, with a particular focus on kindergarten and first grade. A logic model that depicts at a minimum the goals, activities, outputs, and outcomes of the proposed model demonstration project. A description of the activities and measures to be incorporated into the proposed model demonstration project to improve identification of and instruction for students with or at risk for dyslexia, including a timeline of how and when the components are introduced within the model. A description of the evaluation activities and measures to be incorporated into the proposed model demonstration project. This includes providing a detailed and complete description of the formative and summative evaluation plans consistent with the project's logic model. And last, travel as specified in the notice. This slide lists the eligible applicants for the competition. Eligible applicants include SEAs, LEAs, including charter schools that are considered LEAs under state law, institutions of higher education, other public agencies, private nonprofit organizations, outlying areas, freely associated states, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and for-profit organizations. The estimated range of awards is $375,000 to $400,000 per year. We will not make an award exceeding $400,000 for a single budget period of 12 months. We anticipate making 3 awards, and the project period for each award is up to 48 months. This slide includes information about the formatting and page limit recommendations. Please double-space all text in the application narrative and use a font that is 12-point or larger. We recommend that you limit the application narrative to no more than 50 pages. The program has 2 general requirements. The applicant must make positive effort to employ and advance in employment qualified individuals with disabilities in project activities, and involve individuals with disabilities or parents of individuals with disabilities ages birth through 26 in planning, implementing, and evaluating the project. The next set of slides will describe the selection criteria for the competition. Reviewers will be awarding points based on each section of the narrative and will be asked to rate the applications based on the following criteria: the significance, the quality of the project design, adequacy of resources and quality of the management plan, and quality of the project evaluation. The first criterion is significance. Applications can receive up to 15 points for this criterion. Reviewers will consider the potential contribution of the proposed project to increase knowledge or understanding of educational problems, issues, or effective strategies, the extent to which the proposed project is likely to build local capacity to provide, improve, or expand services that address the needs of the target population, the importance or magnitude of the results or outcomes likely to be attained by the proposed project, especially improvements in teaching and student achievement, and the likely utility of the products, such as information, materials, processes, or techniques that will result from the proposed project, including the potential for their being used effectively in a variety of other settings. The second criterion is the quality of the project design. Applications can receive up to 35 points for this criterion. Reviewers will consider the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified and measurable. The extent to which the design of the proposed project includes a thorough, high-quality review of the relevant literature, a high-quality plan for project implementation, and the use of appropriate methodological tools to ensure the successful achievement of project objectives. The quality of the proposed demonstration design and procedures for documenting project activities and results. The extent to which the design for implementing and evaluating the proposed project will result in information to guide possible replication of project activities or strategies, including information about the effectiveness of the approach or strategies employed by the project, and the extent to which performance feedback and continuous improvement are integral to the design of the proposed project. The third criterion is adequacy of resources and quality of the management plan. Applications can receive up to 25 points for this criterion. Reviewers will consider the adequacy of support, including facilities, equipment, supplies, and other resources from the applicant organization or the lead applicant organization. The relevance and demonstrated commitment of each partner in the proposed project to the implementation and success of the project. The extent to which the time commitments of the project director and principal investigator and other key personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. How the applicant will ensure that a diversity of perspectives are brought to bear in the operation of the proposed project, including those of parents, teachers, the business community, a variety of disciplinary and professional fields, recipients or beneficiaries of services, or others as appropriate. The adequacy of the management plan to achieve the objectives of the proposed project on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks, and the adequacy of mechanisms for ensuring high quality products and services from the proposed project. The fourth criterion is quality of the project evaluation. Applicants can receive up to 25 points for this criterion. Reviewers will consider the extent to which the methods of evaluation are thorough, feasible, and appropriate to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the proposed project. The extent to which the methods of evaluation will provide performance feedback and permit periodic assessment of progress toward achieving intended outcomes. The extent to which the methods of evaluation provide for examining the effectiveness of project implementation strategies. The extent to which the evaluation will provide guidance about effective strategies suitable for replication or testing in other settings, and the extent to which the methods of evaluation include the use of objective performance measures that are clearly related to the intended outcomes of the project and will produce quantitative and qualitative data to the extent possible. I want to thank you for your time and attention. Again, I strongly encourage you to read the notice carefully and to view the recorded webinar with information about applying for OSEP's discretionary grants and submitting a grant application. And please pay careful attention to the application due date and time provided in the notice. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions about the OSEP grant opportunity for the model demonstration projects for the early identification of students with dyslexia in elementary school. Thank you again.